Who's scoring big in the NBA this season? You are, with all the new ways to get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From monster slams to dishing the rock to cleaning the glass, get behind your favorite players and the prop bets you can make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player props. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like picking how many points your favorite player will have. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. Right now, the Oklahoma City Thunder have supplanted the Boston Celtics as the favorites to win the title on DraftKings at plus 225, with the Celtics right behind them at plus 235. First time, here's something special just for you. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Take it to the rack with DraftKings Sportsbook. Every point counts. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code HOOPS. That's HOOPS. That's code HOOPS for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hope all of you guys are having a great week. Got a jam-packed show for you today. We're hitting both of the ESPN games as the Boston Celtics beat up on the Phoenix Suns. We're going to talk a little bit about that drive and kick clinic that they put on tonight. And then after that, the Los Angeles Lakers win a really funny game against the Indiana Pacers. It felt to me like the Lakers were in control for most of that game, and yet somehow the Pacers had a lead in the final minute as the Lakers, kind of had a couple of lapses in execution in the fourth quarter and nearly cost themselves. But LeBron pulls it out with a game-winning tip-in at the buzzer, the 8th game-winning buzzer beater of his career. And then at the tail end of the show, like we did the last time we went live, we're going to do a little live mailbag here on the show. Jackson's going to hop on and join us and read some of the questions. So remember, all you got to do is subscribe to the channel and then drop your questions in the live chat. We're going to get to them at the tail end of the show. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. Follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT so you guys don't miss show announcements. Don't forget about our podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. It's also super helpful if you leave a rating and a review on that front. We also have brand new social media feeds on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook where Jackson's making some great content throughout the year. Make sure you guys follow us there. And last but not least, keep dropping mailbag questions in our YouTube comments for our regular mailbags that we do throughout the week. So we do them about once a week. And we take those questions from the YouTube comments. Make sure you guys drop your questions there. All right, let's talk some basketball. So I thought the Celtics just put on a drive and kick clinic tonight. I thought Phoenix had a extremely foolish game plan early in the game. They were like strong side zoning with Nick Richards. So basically like when Jaylen Brown would dribble into a post up on the left side of the floor, Nick Richards was waiting on the right side of the block. There was a lot of overhelp and double team stuff with Phoenix early in the game on Jaylen Brown. They had a lingering double team against Jaylen Brown at the left wing. They had even just a random drive from Derek White that seemed to be under control where Nick Richards just overcommitted to help, and it led to another wide open three for Kristaps Porzingis. But to Jaylen Brown's credit in particular, even though he hit a couple threes early, he hit a three coming off of a wide screen on the left side, and he hit another three off of an offensive rebound that was wide open at the top of the key. But he didn't really force the issue early on. He just took what the defense was giving them with those skip passes and the easy rotation situations, the easy advantages that were there on the weak side of the floor. And that, again, I just thought it was foolish because you're not even making the Celtics compromise you by attacking in a certain type of way. You're just giving them open shots by loading up on the strong side, which is like absolutely not how you want to defend the Boston Celtics. You want to the Boston Celtics kind of have a little bit of a multiple personality type of characteristic as a basketball team. And over the course of the last few years, they've been more onto the we're hunting those great catch and shoot looks. We're going to move the ball around, but they've had potential over the years to kind of slip into settling and playing a lot of one-on-one ISO ball. And you're never going to bait them into that sort of play if you just load up on the strong side and make those reads obvious and easy. And that just really set a tone for the rest of this game. And I thought everybody, starting from Jaylen Brown down, just everybody was committed to that process of getting great shots, turning good shots into great shots. I talk about this concept all the time, but it's a simple idea of not falling victim to your talent. Like Peyton Pritchard can just walk up the floor and just hit a hard step back on an in and out dribble and get a three whenever he wants. Derek White can come off of a switch and a ball screen and just hit that pull up three during that switch interchange when there's a gap between the defense. And look, against the best defenses in the league, there's a certain amount of those shots that you have to make in your goals as a playoff team trying to get to that 4 playoff rounds and to get the Larry O'Brien trophy. But that is a order of operations that you follow, and you want that sort of shot to be something that you can make, that you will take, but it's not what you're actively hunting for. We've talked about this one in our last mailbag, the idea that your order of operations should be wide open layup, wide open catch and shoot three for the first 15 to 20 seconds of the shot clock before you even consider taking those, unless you're in a great rhythm and it just feels good and you're in that sort of zone where you're starting to be more aggressive for your shot earlier in the clock. And they just stayed relentless with that, and they're just so incredibly difficult to handle when they're playing that brand of basketball. This is a foundational part of Boston's basketball culture that is even separate from Jason Tatum. And if you're wondering how you win without your star, it's about having a basketball identity that is separate from the star. Now, the star you should add to that identity and be a part of that identity. But when your team has a basketball identity that is separate from the star, that's what allows you to have success. This is a tough game, guys. This is on the road against a Suns team that has won, I think, 5 out of 6 and is playing some of their better defense and doing some of their better rebounding over this phase of the season. That's not an easy win. And you're going in there without Jason Tatum and you beat the shit out of him. And that stems from that basketball culture. And that's the thing, whether it's, Tatum and Brown and Porzingis with Derek White and Drew Holiday, or if it's some random combination of players and guys like Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser who will be in the playoff rotation. If it's Torrey Craig that comes in and brings this style, it's Baylor Shireman who's been playing a little bit more as of late. It's coming in. It's we're going to expect you to defend, to run the floor, to get in your proper spacing. And when you get these catches with these advantages, if you got to clean up a catch and shoot look, you take it. If not, we're driving these closeouts. We're moving without the basketball and staying fluid, finding those openings for those kickouts, making those kickout passes, and being relentless about that pursuit of the great shot. Again, the good shot, you can fall victim to your talent and start settling, but the pursuit of that great shot is what actually allows you to have sustained success. There's a lot of these examples that you'll see where a player will come out, and this has happened to Jaylen Brown in his career before, where he comes out and he'll hit a couple of really tough early shots and he'll have a 13-point first quarter or something like that. But often those really difficult shot-making sequences have a quick ending point, and all of a sudden it turns into, how are you going to generate the great shots that we need to have sustained success over the game? The second thing I wanted to talk about regarding this specific concept is just how dangerous or how different Boston's geometry is offensively because of what Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford can do. They're both knockdown three-point shooters. They hit 6 more threes in this game. But at the same time, they can do scoring against mismatches in the post. They can be those connective playmakers. Again, when we talk about what makes the Boston drive attack work, it's not just guys who can drive and Tatum and Brown and guys who can hit, catch, and shoot threes and everyone else. Everybody has to be able to do all of the things. Everybody needs to be able to hit the shot, but also to drive the closeout, but also be able to make the read when the next wave of the defense shows up. And often what ends up happening, you want to know why Nick Richards looked completely lost in this game at times? It stems from the fact that it's unusual to face a team that has 2 5-men who can both block multiple shots in a game like they did tonight, do big man stuff, but also dribble, shoot, and pass the way that they do. And that just puts you in a lot of really uncomfortable positions. Nick Richards is going to want to help at the rim in transition defense situations, even when it's not necessarily a straight line drive. Why? Because he's not used to having to account for the 7'3" guy who's trailing in transition and can knock down a 28 footer. And that's what even gets crazier with Porzingis is he can push it even further and further out. But I was just really, really impressed by the Celtics tonight. I thought Jaylen Brown played one of his like best floor game type of games in terms of just his decision making, feeling the flow, knowing when to attack, when to keep the ball moving. The centers were just absolutely demolishing them. I thought Sam Hauser was great off the bench tonight. 7 straight wins for the Celtics. They've had a pretty light schedule in this phase since the Thunder game. They had won 6 in a row, but they put a nice signature win on the end of that win streak by beating the Suns tonight. Again, that's a hot Suns team that was playing some really good basketball, a desperate Suns team that needs every single one of these wins, and Boston just thoroughly outclassed them. On the Phoenix front, I've talked a lot about this. These teams that are in that like kind of third tier of championship contenders, where it's like you have your top tier championship contenders. These are the teams that really truly believe they have a great chance to win the title. Then there's like that second tier teams where it's like these teams, if you catch them on the right night, they look terrible. But you catch them on a different night, they look amazing. They struggle with consistency, but there's always that belief that stems there because they have these moments. We beat these guys in this big game. We did, like the Bucks, for instance. Like we, won the in-season tournament and we shut down the Oklahoma City Thunder and really dominated them. Like they have things they can point to that are like, these are signature wins we've had that add legitimacy to our pursuit of the trophy. But in that third tier, it's this group of teams that it's like, do they even think they can win? Right. And what ends up happening in that tier is they have really sloppy effort and execution, in large part because it's hard to get the guys to commit to it because they don't even think they can compete with the best teams in the league, even when they do those things. And that's the thing. Like, this is a Suns team that has been defending and rebounding at a top 10 level over this 6-game stretch. And they were hopeless to guard the Boston Celtics tonight. And so a loss like that can be really demoralizing, and their schedule is brutal down the stretch. This is going to be a tough go here for Phoenix. But as I talked about when we talked Suns on Tuesday morning, I'm a strong believer that this is a vitally important phase for the Suns right now. This next stretch of 10 games or so, because this is how you're going to set the identity for what you're pursuing next season. If your goal is to make some slight tweaks and go at it again with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, it's going to start with a basketball culture that you establish now. And that's going to be difficult when there's not a lot to play for within this particular season. All right, let's move on to Lakers Pacers. So the end of the game sequence. In crunch time, the Lakers went with their 5-shooter lineup. This is the big three, so Austin, Luka, and LeBron, with Dorian Finney-Smith and Rui Hachimura as the other two guys. This, in my opinion, is the best lineup that the Lakers can put together in terms of their version of the drive and kick talent. I've talked about this a lot this year, but the two teams with the two lineups that I think, well, the Celtics have a couple of different versions of it, but the two teams that I see as like true drive and kick teams that can actually put 5 players on the floor that can all play this style and make it work are the Celtics and the Lakers. The difference is the Celtics can do it with 5 guys that are all great defenders too. And guess what? That's why I think they're the favorite to win the championship this year. But the Lakers can put together a similar lineup with Luka, LeBron, Austin, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Rui in terms of you can't leave anybody open, but you also have multiple players on the floor that if you let them play one-on-one will torch you. They can actually force teams to choose between allowing wide open catch and shoot threes or allowing Luka and LeBron to pick on their weakest defenders in one-on-one situations. The conundrum it presented for the Pacers, this specific 5-man group, was who does Miles Turner guard and who does Ben Mathurin guard? Ben was having a really nice offensive night. He's the latest in a long line of athletic guards that have given the Lakers some issues. He was getting into their bodies and forcing forcing fouls and getting to the foul line, getting into players at the rim and finishing there. He had a big-time game, right? So they're closing with Miles Turner and Ben Mathurin. Who are they going to guard? Well, Miles Turner's on Rui Hachimura, and Ben Mathurin was on Austin Reeves. And so the Lakers just started to attack those two every time down the floor in the clutch, and they generated 4 consecutive wide open threes, like completely uncontested threes. Luka brings Rui into the ball screen. Miles Turner doesn't want to give up the pick and pop three to Rui, so he just throws a quick hedge and then sprints back to Rui. Well, when he throws the hedge, Luka's able to turn the corner, gets downhill, creates a wide open kick out three to Austin Reaves, has all day to look at this three out of the left corner. Next possession, they run an off-ball screen, it's Austin screening for LeBron. That gets Mathurin switched on to LeBron. What do? Throw the ball in the post to LeBron. LeBron starts to back Ben Mathurin down. Pascal Siakam double teams one pass away from Austin Reaves. Kick out another completely uncontested, wide open three for Austin Reaves. After losing Luka downhill on that Rui ball screen, Miles Turner doesn't want to hedge and recover this time, so he stays on Luka. 2 on the ball, swing. There's Rui wide open for 3. Very next possession, exact same thing happens again. Exact same 2 on the ball sequence. Pitch it back for Rui again. Completely wide open 3. 4 times in a row. Austin missed both of his. Rui made both of his. It put him back up by 6. Now, even if you look at the 2 botched possessions for the Lakers, like Rui when he got blocked at the rim, or Austin in his turnover, like there were openings there. The Rui situation, he kind of made the classic young player mistake of not just sticking with what's working. He went away from it. Miles Turner was kind of trying to jam him on the screen, and instead of just forcing his way up and setting the screen so that he can run the same action, he slipped out of it towards the basket, and Miles Turner was able to recover and block him there. The Austin play, ball screen, low man, another wide open kick out 3 to Dorian Finney-Smith in the corner. Austin just had a bad passing angle and ended up turning it over. The stop, even when Carlisle put in the defenders, puts in Aaron Nesmith, puts in Jarris Walker. Dorian Finney-Smith drives a closeout after Luka curls on an off-ball screen and gets downhill again, draws help at the rim, kick out to Dorian Finney-Smith. DFS rips through the closeout. When he rips through the closeout, Austin Reaves is wide open on the left wing with like 16 on the shot clock. Dorian just makes a bad decision at the rim and tries to shoot through 2 guys and ends up missing the shot. But like they have the ability with that lineup to relentlessly create completely uncontested threes. That's the bind that the Lakers put you in. Whether it's Jackson Hayes as a vertical spacer and more of a 4-out 1-in look, or it's that DFS Rui group, they can put you into some really difficult positions defensively trying to guard them in the half court. And guys, it's only going to get crazier as LeBron gets into a rhythm. This is what's been weird about the sequence. Before LeBron's injury, LeBron was playing super well. Luka was in the upside down, couldn't make a jump shot to save his life. Luka gets his rhythm while LeBron's injured. LeBron's back now, and he didn't make a field goal for the first 3 quarters of this game. And it still felt like the Lakers could get whatever they wanted. And so, like, that to me is what is the exciting part of the potential of this Lakers team. Like, we're going to talk about their defense in a minute, and there's obviously some problems there that they need to work out right now. But they should theoretically be able to, even in the playoff context, generate great shots over and over and over and over again. And that's going to be what makes them so difficult to deal with. On the game winner, it's an interesting sequence. The Pacers get back into the game. I talked about the execution lapses. Like, this was a game where it felt like the Lakers were just in control. Every time Indy made a run, the Lakers would be able to just flex their muscles, get great shots, get stops, and regain control of the game. But they damn near blew this one. They go up 118 to 112 late in the 4th quarter. And there's just this really pathetic stretch of defense from Luka Doncic and Rui Hachimura. Just a bunch of really bad reps of on-ball defense where they lost control of Andrew Nembhard and Tyrese Haliburton, and they just gave up a bunch of easy shots. And earlier in the game, the Lakers were doing a lot of helping and rotating and doing a great job of shutting down that dribble penetration against matchup hunting and things along those lines. But late in the game, the Lakers had completely let go of the rope in their help and recover, and just straight up were giving concession layups. Like, just were letting, when those guys would get dribble penetration, just let them go. And so, again, that's another thing we got to get into, but they end up toasting this off, and Haliburton gets an and one against Luka that puts him up 119 to 118. And so Carlisle makes a defensive sub. It takes Haliburton out, takes Miles Turner out, puts Jarris Walker and Aaron Nesmith in. The idea here is they can do more switching, they can rotate better. And it did work for that one possession. They got to stop. Again, Dorian Finney-Smith just has to make a good read on that kick out to Austin, and it could end up in another wide open three. But they ended up, through their rotations, through their speed, rushing Dorian Finney-Smith into making a bad decision. Like, one of the differences between the previous looks before the defense sub was the Lakers were able to get the wide open three right away off that first action. When Indiana brought their better defenders in, they forced the Lakers to break them down incrementally. And again, they did. They run the off-ball action. They get Luka downhill. Luka gets downhill, draws help at the rim. That forces Andrew Nembhard to rotate to the right corner. Luka makes the kick out. Dorian Finney-Smith drives the closeout. But because there's more links in that chain, there's more potential for a mistake. Dorian Finney-Smith makes a mistake, and ends up in a stop, right? Like that, in the same way that every offensive play you make makes a defender make a decision, every rotation you make as a defender makes the offensive player make a decision and ends up getting a stop. Dorian Finney-Smith drives the closeout, forces the layup. It ends in a miss. Carlisle hangs on to his last timeout, presumably for just whatever might arise in the final minute in a situation where you might need a final shot, but it has a catastrophic blowback in the form of now you've got this group without Tyrese Haliburton on the floor that got to stop, but needs to score. And that ends poorly as Ben Mathurin has to throw up that kind of BS double pump jump shot at the top of the key. And now it's a live ball situation and Carlisle can't stop the clock. And it's the final possession of the game. Kick ahead, LeBron gets Ben Mathurin in the post, and LeBron just makes a really smart read. Like he sits there and he goes, Luka's trailing the play wide open. Like there's no reason for me to do anything here. That's the second or third best player in the world just standing wide open at the top of the key because everyone's paying attention to LeBron. Rifles it to Luka. Siakam closes out at him, beats him off the dribble. And honestly, I thought Luka's look was great. That little floater in the lane, that's a really, really high percentage shot from Luka. But the other downside of having Miles Turner off the floor, not enough size around the rim. And so LeBron did a really nice job of getting inside rebounding position on Jarris Walker after the kick out pass to Luka. And he just went right up and tapped it in right at the buzzer. And honestly, it masked a bunch of mistakes from the Lakers because those execution lapses were bad enough to cost the Lakers that game. And LeBron just made a play at the end and it ended up being enough. It's funny because when all the drama was going down after the 3 quarters where LeBron didn't have a made field goal and he only had 3 points, I actually thought LeBron was playing really well at that point in time. Like, if you look at the way the flow of the game was going, like LeBron missed some easy shots that he typically makes in the early portions of the game. He like smoked a left-handed layup. That's like a layup he never misses. He missed an easy floater driving a closeout off the right wing. Like there were some misses that were uncharacteristic, but like he wasn't really forcing the issue and the team was scoring well and things were going good. Second quarter stretch, it's the Austin LeBron group. Austin was cooking. Austin had it going. LeBron was still making plays. They were running a lot of 2-man game at the top of the key, and there was some switching. There was a 2 on the ball situation where LeBron got a roll and rifled a short roll pass to Dorian Finney-Smith in the left corner who knocked down a 3. Like LeBron was still making plays in that stretch, but he just wasn't co-opting the offense because why would he? Austin Reeves was cooking. Austin was crazy good in that second quarter scoring stretch. And so LeBron just facilitated as a connective playmaker in the offense and focused his energy on defense. That was an excellent defensive stretch for the Lakers that they went on, I think, it's like a 15-0 or a 17-0 run. Like they were really good defensively in that stretch. And so, yeah, like how is that going to manifest? If LeBron is going to not try to grab the reins so that he can allow Austin to get into a rhythm, that's going to hurt his scoring totals. Like LeBron could have been aggressive there and might have had a better box score performance, but it wouldn't have been what was best for the team. I mean, these things are really complicated. This is why I don't believe in box score watching. Like Luka, for the record, had 36, 7, and 7, I think. And I thought he also had a very uneven game. Like forget about just the final stretch I talked about. Luka was brutally bad on on defense in this game. From the start in the first quarter, he was like losing track of Obi Toppin on a simple little off ball action, or giving up easy dribble penetration because he's just not competing on the ball. Like, I'm not worried about it because I know Luka can be better than that. Like, who knows if he's good enough to do it against the Celtics? We're going to find out, or against the Thunder, we're going to find out, or against one of these higher level Western Conference teams. But like, he can do better than he did tonight. Luka had an uneven game. I didn't think it was Luka's best game. They got killed in Luka's minutes. The Luka off groups are where the Lakers really took command of this game. So like, it's one of those things where that's why box score watching is so pointless. Luka had 36, 7, and 7. LeBron had 13, 7, and 13, or whatever it was that he had. And like, LeBron was just doing it in different ways, defensively, as a rebounder, like timely scoring in various points of the game. So that's what's kind of interesting about it. But that said, it ended up being like kind of bad for Indiana that LeBron only had 3 points going into that fourth quarter stretch, because LeBron had a bunch of favorable matchups in that early fourth quarter stretch against Indiana's bench, and he just got super aggressive going downhill and quickly got over that 10-point mark and blew the lead out to double digits pretty quickly there. But of course, more execution lapses were preventing them from gaining complete control of the game. But all in all, like, I thought LeBron, even though he didn't score the ball super effectively tonight, I just thought he played a really good game. And I mean, hell, he literally made the play that won it. So again, as I always talk about, like, no matter how bad things are going, just make a play. Just make a play and you can make it all go away. There's a version of that where they lose and everyone talks after the game about how poorly LeBron played, looking at the box score. And even though that wouldn't be full context to everything that he did, he made one play at the end and it erased everything, and now he's the hero. And it's just a reminder of why that resilience is so valuable. I want to talk a little bit about the Lakers in the big picture before we wrap up and head to our mailbag. You saw their offensive potential in a lot of ways tonight, right? We talked about the 5-out spacing, their consistent ability to generate great shots. But they still have a lot to clean up on. And this is the exciting part about them putting it all together and becoming a true championship contender. Like I talked about with Golden State and the Lakers, they're the two teams this year, because of their substantial changes at the deadline, they're basically new basketball teams, especially the Lakers, because it's such a stylistic shift going away from Anthony Davis, right? And that means that this is training camp. This is where you're becoming the team. For this team, specifically, uniquely under the circumstances, this is where they're learning each other. This is where they're in like the December-January phase, or excuse me, the November-December phase that all of the other top-tier championship contenders were in. They're still learning about what they need to get better at, learning about what their identity is. And some of that is problematic in the sense that they don't have a lot of time, but at the same time, it's exciting because it means there's a lot of potential. On defense, for instance, Luka and Rui, just their attentiveness and their competitiveness on the ball. I thought both of them all night, including the late game stretch, were just really sloppy on that end of the floor. The consistency of the team's help in recover situations and how well they rotate when they give up dribble penetration. They had so many excellent possessions tonight. When LeBron is really flying around and helping recover, and Dorian Finney-Smith is flying around and everyone's committed on defense, they can be really, really good. Do I think they're going to be a top 5 defense with Luka? No. But they certainly can be in that 6 to 10 range. They've shown it. They've shown it with Luka before LeBron James got hurt, when they went on that big winning streak. And so a lot of this is going to be, you have to manage a certain amount, the wear and tear on all these guys' legs over the course of the final 10 games of the season. But at the same time, this team needs a certain baseline of their habits on defense in terms of their commitment for 48 minutes to doing what they need to do and help in recover situations, because they have Austin and Luka out there, Jackson out there, Gabe out there, guys that teams will look to attack from time to time. And so this is going to be a team that's going to have to be really sharp in their help and recover situations. And they had some real inconsistency with that tonight. That's something they need to polish up. on offense. I talked about LeBron getting in a real rhythm. To me, what's exciting about this team offensively is when you get both 30-point per game Luka and 27-point per game LeBron, both, 63% true shooting. When they're both at that level, that's where the real offensive upside is there. And that's what I'm waiting to see over the final few weeks. Continuing to improve attacking teams that switch a lot of screens. Again, Indiana, one of the big issues there down the stretch was their ability to attack a screening action with Miles Turner where they were either hedging or doubling. That created natural openings for them to capitalize on. Their offense has always looked great against that sort of defense since the Luka Doncic trade. Getting it to the point where they succeed well against switching defenses over the course of the next few weeks. That's going to be an important part of putting this all together. And then lastly, the overall lapses in execution. This has been an issue with this team that I think has extended even pre-Luka, but has continued under Luka, where it's like the 90 seconds at the end of a quarter where you have a sloppy turnover or a bad shot, compounding mistakes. Like the Austin throws that lob to LeBron. This was a huge sequence. Like it's a 7-point game. If LeBron catches the lob and dunks it, they go up 9. Miles Turner deflects it. They go out the other way and score. Siakam scores on a Euro step. That cuts it to 5. It was a huge 4-point swing in the fourth quarter. But Austin goes down right after that and jacks up a step back 3 early in the clock. Like that's compounding the mistake. That's the kind of thing that leads to the bursts of runs that can take what look like efforts where you watch the Lakers and it looks like they're controlling a game, but somehow the other team is lingering. And a lot of that stems from these lapses in judgment, these compounding mistakes that end up undoing a lot of their success. But all in all, I was impressed. Every time you have bad back-to-back games like what happened to Chicago, against Chicago and at Orlando, it's always kind of an inflection point for me between the good teams and the bad teams. The bad teams tend to spiral. Oh, you're going to play the Pacers at home, who have won 7 of 8, red hot Pacers team. Then you have to, on the back-to-back, head to Chicago. Like, that's a tough stretch of games. But like the bad teams will spiral in those situations. The good teams are like, fuck that, we're better than the Pacers. Let's go beat them. And again, like I thought this game, even with LeBron effectively stealing it at the buzzer, I thought the Lakers played a lot of really good and dominant basketball in this particular game. The question is, can they continue that on the road in Chicago tomorrow? And it'll be really interesting to see how they do it from the rotation standpoint too, because I'm sure some guys are feeling pretty sore after that particular game. All right, that's all I have for those for tonight's games. We're going to get into our mailbag. Jackson, what do you got for us, man?
What is going on, Jason? Everyone in the chat, please continue to ask your questions. I will be picking some from the chat. To start with, let's go with what is your favorite type of defensive player to watch? I personally love a versatile forward like Tumani Kamara.
I think Tamani's awesome. And Tamani has some characteristics in the archetype I'm talking about too, because he is big and strong and has a strong base. But I have always been partial to the lower center of gravity, like wider bodied, like bigger, stronger, like fire hydrant type of wings. This is like the
Like
Lou
Lou Dort.
Dort, Alex Caruso, Bruce Brown kind of fits this mold. Terrence Mann
Mm.
kind of fits this mold. Like even like to a lesser extent for Laker fans, like this is what Jordan Goodwin's archetype is. He's just a much lesser version of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I find that they can win battles on the ground more than some of the taller, rangier wings can. I think the taller, rangier wings are more valuable in rotation situations because of their ability to cover ground. But I find those fire hydrant guys to be tougher. And part of it too is like I'll just be honest, like from my own playing experience, like I think that the most effective form of defense is disrupting the base, not disrupting the top of the shot. These guys are professional shot makers. They don't see hands in their face. But if you bother their rhythm, if you break up their ground game leading into the shot, you can force misses. And that's why I'm a big believer in that archetype. I just think they're good at disrupting bases.
I like that. I like sort of the the Draymond Green versatile big type who can sort of do the two places at once thing. But in terms of guard wing defenders, this is just a personal preference, I think, because when I play basketball, I gamble a lot defensively. So I like players like Gary Payton and Marcus Smart, who you're like, that dude is going to disrupt
Yeah.
something. He might get lost a time or two, making a bit too gambly of a gamble, but he is disrupting something every possession. And they're like, I'm on the Gary Payton the second hype train kind of. I think that if he like could shoot and got 30 plus minutes a game, he would be in the defensive player of the year guard. Like, not the guards don't win it very often, but he would be in that defensive player of the year guard like conversation because he is so disruptive. No one wants to dribble when that guy. He has mastered the pick the pocket clean thing. His hands are
Yeah,
crazy.
Gary Payton's one of my favorite players because we competed against each other a bunch in college, and he was always just a really nice guy and someone that I enjoyed competing against. And he was one of those guys too
That's sick.
that like kind of felt like he was in that same archetype we're talking about of like kind of a lower center of gravity, ground bound, like ball pressure guard. But he struggled to find his footing in the NBA there for a while. But like Golden
Yeah.
State's been such a natural fit for him because of his read and react talent and that
Yeah.
ability to, you know, like play in that inverted spacing that Steph creates. But yeah, I mean, like it is all about personal preference at the end of the day, and a lot of it has to do with scheme too. Like if you're in a
Yeah.
switching scheme, then the rangier forwards are more valuable. If you're in a drop coverage scheme, then like a certain type of guard defender becomes more valuable, or a rim protector becomes more valuable. Like so much of it depends on the surrounding talent as well.
Mm-hmm. I like this one that we just got from Kyle. What is the biggest mental advantage matchup you've seen in your time watching basketball? Example being, it felt like the Nuggets really owned the Lakers in that 22, 23, 24 phase, and it felt like there was sort of like a mental block there. Are there any other ones that you
I
can think of? It's a hard question,
I
but it's
think
a
the
fun one.
obvious one is the Warriors' advantage over the Clippers in the mid 2010s. That was the one where like legitimately year after year after year, it just felt like they couldn't win in that matchup. There are several good ones though. There's kind of a funny one starting to bloom here between Minnesota and Denver too. But
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
Lakers Denver one, I was on the wrong side of that one. That's a brutal feeling. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Clippers Warriors.
The ones that popped to mind for me because I'm a Celtics fans are ones that flipped actually. Like it did feel like they had a little bit of a mental advantage on LeBron or when he was still in Cleveland
Yep.
the first time. And then he gets over the hump in Miami and it's like, okay, we have no chance to beat this guy.
Hmm.
None. And the same thing is true, I think, of the '08 to the 2010 Celtics against Pau Gasol, where in '08 they're like, they just put that dude in a box. They just put that dude in an absolute cage. And then you have all the stories about Kobe over the summer talking to Pau, yada, yada, yada. And it did genuinely feel like he was kind of unguardable in 2009 and 2010. I was like, I hated Pau Gasol as a kid because I was like, this dude dominates us after we completely held him in check for an
Dude,
NBA Finals.
it's I think getting humiliated is the best thing that can happen to you as a basketball player. I
Yeah.
remember one of the last times that I got humiliated. There was a dude from Toronto who was playing with me in this like professional league that they were getting ready to start up in India. And we had all signed deals, and we were like doing this like 2 week kind of like promo thing in the US, and then we were all about to ship out to India, and then the league ends up
Jeez.
folding and the whole thing falls apart. But I meet this guy from
Whoa.
Toronto, and he was just like better than me at everything. Like he was taller, but he was also like big and strong, but like a little bit bigger and stronger than me. Like he was a little bit better at handling, a little bit better at shooting, like a little bit better at everything. And the worst he was super nice. And he was, and like because we were
Oh,
together for like 2 weeks, like him and I had like
yeah.
talked quite a bit, got to know each other a little bit. Like we were both working in
Yeah.
real estate at the time as like our like day job. And it's just like, but what
Mhm.
ends up happening is you get your ass kicked, and like that reinvigorated me in my like player development stuff. And I spent most of COVID like adding all of these little things to my game because I just got sick and tired of that dude kicking my ass. Like it's so good. Like that can
Right.
be the best thing that happens to a basketball player is get humiliated.
100%. Someone in the chat also said LeBronto is
That's a
another
great one.
classic,
Great
perfect
one.
example of
Mm.
this one. Perfect example of this sort of thing we're describing. All right. Hey Jason, what would you do if you were the new GM of the Dallas Mavericks and the goal is to win a championship next year or like as soon as possible? Love the show.
If
Keep
the
up the
goal is
great
to
work.
win the championship next year, you run it back and you lean on the concept that you made this trade for to begin with, even if we can all agree that it was bad reasoning, which is if you put together these vaunted AD, Derek Lively, PJ Washington lineups with all of this versatility on the perimeter with obviously Kyrie's out there, but you've got like a big shooter, positional defender in Clay. You've got a ball handler and Spencer Dinwiddie, or a guy that can do a little bit of both, and Najee Marshall. Or I don't know why they got rid of Quentin Grimes. That was a really weird one. And like that kind of feels like the latest in a long line of like, why did they let him get away kind of situations? But
They traded him for Caleb
I don't
Martin.
understand it, man. But like it's and Caleb Martin's a great defender, and but the thing is that that was something Quentin did pretty well too, in addition to his scoring pop. But the point is that like you're not going to make some sort of sweeping change that's going to bring you championship contention. It's
Yeah.
that tiny window of Nico Harrison's reasoning when he made the Luka trade, which is like, what if we become the best defense in the league and give me Kyrie Irving and a huge physically imposing team, and let's see if we can just win rock fights. And there's a chance there. I would call it a very slim chance, but there is a chance there.
Yeah, I suppose the only real other move I could think of if you're trying to do something is you do sort of have an, I mean, not this season because they can't stay healthy. They almost have an overabundance of bigs, and Derek Lively is
Yeah.
really young. So I'm wondering if there's like a way you could trade Lively and package him with a contract for another wing, but you might as well just run with
Mhm.
what they got.
I think if
you're right.
Dallas traded Derek Lively, then there would be an actual riot.
Right. There is no more. Then the window is like 9 months. Like you don't even have a window anymore. Like that is the window that season. Uh let's do this one between the second tier teams, second tier title contenders. Which potential matchup would be the most fascinating from a round one?
Okay,
matchup?
let me pull up the standings here.
I was gonna do the same.
So I think that these ones in the middle of the Eastern Conference are going to be fantastic. I'm super excited for these. And it's up in the air a little bit, but it looked like it was going to be Pistons Knicks, and the Pistons have had success against New York this year, and they had been able to do some matchup attacking there. But Milwaukee with the Dame injury is now dropping games, and they could end up dropping. It's kind of a bummer, and who knows, maybe Giannis will be able to pull them up. But like Pacers Bucks is, and I think Knicks Pistons Pacers Bucks would have felt like an old school Eastern Conference throwdown between the Knicks and Pistons, and then like a rivalry between the Pacers and Bucks. So let's hope that those two series kind of come to fruition. Out west, I think it'd be really fun to see Denver LA in a series that's completely different now that Anthony Davis is gone, with all the bad blood that exists between those two teams. But I still consider them to be upper tier contenders. So I'm going to go with I think I think Golden State Houston would be a ton of fun
Oh,
because of the Dylan Brooks
that would
thing.
be a lot of fun.
And
Yeah.
there's the Dylan Brooks thing. There's also like talk about a styles make fights type of series, like all the experience, all of the veteran know-how and IQ is going to be in Golden State's favor. And then Houston's just going to have an absurd athletic and physical advantage at like a bunch of spots on the floor. So like I think that would be a fun one as well.
That is really fun. Dylan Brooks has, now that he's not he's somehow not as like present in our lives, I think, because Houston doesn't get national
Yeah.
TV games as much as Memphis did. He's become a little bit more of like a benign, fun figure than this kind of like actually kind of grating personality. So I agree with that. I think that you're so right about the East. And I think any of the 3, 4, 5, 6 orientation kind of works. The one we have actively right now is Knicks, Bucks, Pacers, Pistons, and getting a Malice at the Palace teams rematch with Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren on one of the teams, while the Pacers are like kind of chirpy.
Yeah.
I think that there's a way that series gets really physical in a way that I'm not sure if Indiana is prepared for, and I'm not sure the NBA referees are prepared for. And I think that you could have a real crazy, really fun Pistons.
There's upset
Pistons
potential there
series.
too, because Detroit,
Oh yeah,
we talked about it earlier with the Lakers, but Cade is Luka light, so to speak. And Indiana
oh
presents a
yeah.
lot of those similar situations that Luka just put them in, where like he can get two on the ball or force hedges, which unlocks his playmaking. Like Detroit's going to be able to get good shots in that series, so that would be a fun one too.
Detroit's going to be able to get good shots against most
Yeah.
people. I think Cade, like in a game slow down,
Mhm.
great, perfect
Oh
for
yeah.
Cade Cunningham. No issue,
Mhm.
zero issue for Cade Cunningham. All right, let's do. How long have we been going here? Let's
Okay.
do a couple more, and then we can. We've been going for about 12 minutes. Let's do. This is sort of piggybacking off of our episode today, which had Bucks fans in the comments very upset. We were talking about another NBA media personality talking about shipping Giannis out, but it was just a speculative thing, and everyone's talking about it. Okay,
I'm
the
sorry, Bucks
question
fans,
is,
but if you
I
don't
think
acknowledge that there's a potential Giannis trade in the future, I don't know what to tell you. That's not to say that it won't happen.
I
Like
know
it's possible that they
they
pivot and get him to recommit, but like it's looking bleak right now. And so like
and we're not rooting for him to go to New York or
no.
anything. Jason's just commenting on the
Yeah,
state of
like
the
if he
Bucks.
becomes available, the Thunder are a potential threat because they have the necessary
Right.
assets. If they were to pull it off, that would be fucking terrifying. That's literally that's all
Right.
we're getting at here.
All right. This question though is this person said, I think Giannis is going to ask for a trade in the offseason. Looking at potential landing spots, I would like your thoughts on a Ja for Giannis trade and how would Triple J and Giannis sort of pair together as a front court duo? That's a complex question, but it is a really interesting one because I do feel like there's some weird the vibes around Ja are strange.
In general, too, the Grizzlies have struggled capitalizing on spot up possessions, which has been part of their issue with kind of like succeeding as teams get rim protection in front of Ja and kind of pack the paint and cause their offense to slow down. I think my gut feeling is that the Giannis Jaren Jackson fit would be super clunky because I've talked a lot about this, but like when it comes to shooting bigs, there's a fine line between a guy that shoots, in a certain percentage from three and like, oh, we're chasing this guy off the line. And if you're going to pair Giannis with a big, it's got to be someone who is very comfortable out there operating almost exclusively. And part of the issue there too is Jaren Jackson is at his best when he's playing with his back to the basket and taking all those little hooks and floaters and spins and all that kind of shit. And where's Giannis going to stand during that? That's where it gets tricky. I think that's a tricky matchup or tricky fit, I should say.
All right, for our last question, let's do this one. If Cleveland wins a ring this season or at all in this era, would you classify Donovan Mitchell as a quote small guy being the guy on a championship team? The only ones we've really seen before being Isaiah Thomas and Steph Curry.
Ooh, that is a
He's like
really
sort of on
good
the fringe. He's
question.
like Dwayne Wade size, sort of. So it's like, and I don't think of Dwayne Wade that way, but it's a really fun question.
Yeah, they're not the 2015 Hawks where it's like nobody's a star, but it's a
Right.
similar version of that with star talent in the sense that like to me this is like Donovan's clearly the best player, but they all kind of feel on similar tiers for me, where it's like
Mm.
Darius Garland has been
I
unbelievable
love
this year
this
and has
dude.
become one of my favorite players in the league to watch. Evan
He's so fun to
Mobley
watch.
is a defensive player of the year candidate who runs action for them and can go for 20-25 on any given night. Jared Allen, we talk about your value on your specific role in your specific team. Jared Allen's
Yeah.
finishing ability in ball screens and his ability to switch on defense in pick and roll, like unlocks so much of their floor on both ends of the floor. And so like it almost reminds me of the Pistons in the sense that like Isaiah Thomas was the tip of the spear that put them over the top,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't look at those teams as like carry jobs. You look at them as like,
Right.
by committee, if that makes sense.
For sure.
All right, guys, that was fun. As always, we sincerely appreciate you guys for supporting me and supporting the show. We got a bunch of content coming out over the next couple of days between mailbags. We did about 40 minutes with Sam Esfandiari on a bunch of Warriors stuff. I am getting on a plane tomorrow for one last bit of respite before the playoffs. I'm going to see 3 nights of Dead and Company at the Sphere. I'm super, super, super irrationally excited about that. So we're gonna take one last little break, and then it's grind time, and we're gonna be covering the playoffs closely. Again, I appreciate you guys for rocking with me and supporting the show. We got lots of content coming out over the next couple of days, and then I will see you again live on Monday.